The season opener in South Carolina was a jaw-dropper, as many of the key players are out for the 2022 season. But it's all eyes on Ben Kelly, Josh Strang, and Jordan Ashburn as we head into round number 2. Who's going to come out on top, and can anyone stop the roll of the number 1 and defending champion, Ben Kelly?
Are you ready to go? GNCC Racing!
Hello and welcome to America's premier off-road racing championship, the 2022 GNCC Series presented by Specialized. We are in Palatka, Florida at the Wild Boar GNCC, located at the Rodman Plantation and the Hog Waller Mud Bogs. As we look back a couple of weeks ago, we had a host of riders with us and a great front row out there, including visiting riders from the international flair. But it was the 212 of Ricky Russell grabbing the early lead in this one, and it looked like we may be looking for a brand new championship battle. But before we knew it, the number 1 of Ben Kelly was able to find himself to the front of the pack, leaving the rest of the field battling for scraps. In the process, the 206 of Josh Toth was able to move into the number 2 spot. He separated himself from the rest of the field. All the while, Ben Kelly dominated the day, stretching it out mile after mile over the rest of the field. With Toth back in the number 2 spot, the final podium position was left wide open, and Josh Strang in the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn with nose to tail and bar to bar for this one as they worked their way late in the race through some lap traffic. But in the very end, the number 1 of Ben Kelly was not going to be denied as he found his way to victory in round number 1 of the 2022 season. It was Josh Strang and Jordan Ashburn around Josh Toth after some problems on that final lap of racing. Trevor Bollinger rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but honestly, when you're out there and you got the number 1, I guess it's just confidence. I didn't fall into it, so I was, excited coming into this race, and had a solid off season. It had its ups and downs, but just trust the process, put in the work, and yeah, got off to a good start. I was confident because I rode really good here last year, and I think I let it slip through my fingers with getting stuck in a bunch of crashes. So I knew if I just played it smart and stayed off the ground, I'd be good. And yeah, I got a decent start and was kind of 4th there for a while until I got behind Josh in 2nd. And he was nice enough to give me plenty of room to get by. And yeah, we kind of tried to put on a charge to get a little gap, and from there I just kind of managed it. Had one pretty hard crash getting caught up in a tree, but other than that, smooth race, and it felt super good. And yeah, it just feels good to put in a solid result, get a win, and just do it for myself, my team, all the supporters.
A dominating performance for the New Englander Ben Kelly as he takes a big season opening win at the Big Buck GNCC. We are now round 2 here at the Hog Waller. This is the Wild Boar GNCC, and we are off and rolling as the green flag has waved on this one, and out front early on this one, it's going to be Jordan Ashburn. He grabs the early lead and not going to look back, at least for a little while. Jordan Ashburn, not necessarily a sand specialist, as he doesn't do a lot of training down in Florida like a lot of riders do, including the number 1 defending champion and point leader, Ben Kelly, who's been training all winter long at Ranch Russell, located only minutes away from the Hog Waller Mud Bog Ranch, where, of course, this round 2 is being held, the Wild Boar GNCC. A little different look this week in row 1, as we'll talk about that in just a moment. Right now, the XC2 250 Pro class is off and rolling, and we've got a heater in this one already as the season opens up. A lot of key players are trying to make their grade and make their way to the front of the pack, including Mike Witkowski, Johnny Gerard, and many, many others as we are off and rolling. Unfortunately, Gerard out of this one after he suffered a season-ending injury, it appears, in round 1. As we said, we lost some XC1 Pro Class riders as well. Looks like Mike Witkowski is out front of this one right now as we kick things off for the XC2 250 Pro Class. As we were saying, Johnny Gerard, last year's championship contender and defending champion, out after an incident there at Big Buck GNCC. Stu Baylor also out of this one as well. Lane Michael out of this one. And I'll tell you, folks, it certainly made for a little different appearance at the end of the race, and a lot of folks wondering how this season was going to go. As we're off and rolling with the FMF XC3 125 Pro-Am class now. A little different look this season as a lot of riders turned out for this one, including Zach Hayes, Hunter Neuwirth, Tegan Temple, Sean Myers, Mac Fernandez, and Jake Froman, just to name a few. Another great stepping stone class GNCC came up with just a handful of years ago that is really starting to be utilized from some of these young up-and-comers from those youth classes and amateur classes early on into these small 125 machines. Really puts a lot of competition on the track. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Right now, Jordan Ashburn leading this one. Can he hang on to it? Stick around to find out. Wild Boar GNCC continues after this. Coverage of the Grand National Cross Country Championship on MAV TV is brought to you in part by Specialized E-Turbo Bikes. It's you, only faster. And by RockyMountainATVMC.com. Get ready. Back to Palatka, Florida, the Rodman Plantations Hog Waller Mud Bog, and of course this Wild Boar GNCC. Jordan Ashburn continues to lead a couple of international riders in visiting with us. Josep Garcia from Italy, and back there in the number 3 spot is Tyler Medaglia, who is one of the Canadian premier riders. Josh Strang, also from Australia, now from North Carolina, running back at the number 4 spot. See a little further back, about 6th, 7th place position, the 314 gas of Grant Baylor, as a couple of different packs are trying to work through this one as we head out near the FMF PowerPoint, which today is not far from the Monster Mile, believe it or not. Still the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn. Again, not a sand specialist, but seems to be controlling the situation early on here today, as our visiting riders, Josep Garcia and Tyler Medaglia, still holding on to the number 2 and 3 spots. There's Josh Strang in 4th. Ben Kelly back in that number 5 position aboard the number 1 in pretty good spot, especially the way that guy rolls. Been training in the sand. You have to think he's not letting the situation get too far out of hand. Still Ashburn out front as he and looks like Josep Garcia is starting to stretch things out a little bit now. There's Medaglia going by. Here comes Josh Strang and Ben Kelly, the New Englander. Got them all in sight there, it looks like. So still under control for your defending points leader and defending champion, Ben Kelly. Back in the number 6 and 7 spots, Grant Baylor and Ricky Russell, and the visiting Steve Holcomb from the UK back there as well. One of the World Enduro tops, about 7 World Championships if you start looking at his accreditations, of course. And get a little taste of what the Florida sand is like out here today, as we are now 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th rolling through. And here comes, whoa, a little bit of a change up here. Josh Strang has now dropped back to the number 5 spot. So quite a bit of a change and things getting stirred around there. And former world champion Steve Holcomb now up from 8th to the 6th place position. So we're seeing some changes back there as well. Looks like maybe Grant Baylor and Ricky Russell both having some problems. There's the number 206 now of Josh Toth. What did happen to Grant Baylor? Looks like he might have fallen off a little bit. Still up front and on point, though, the number 3. That is Jordan Ashburn out of Tennessee, of all places, a Rocky Mountain rider. And he is racing now in the sands of Florida like he is on his own home turf right now. A little dust starting to kick up as Josh Strang may be falling victim to that. This is a little further back from those front 4, and that is starting to kick up a little bit more dust. There is the 212 Ricky Russell back at the number 6 spot. There is 7th place ride. That is Steve Holcomb, and there is Josh Toth now in the number 8 spot. Further down the trail, look at this. Ben Kelly all the way up to the number 2 spot as he's got in his sights the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn. And both these riders starting to stretch things out now over the rest of the field. Josep Garcia back in that number 3 spot. The Italian rider seems to be riding strong here in Florida today. There's Josh Strang in the number 4 spot as he has gained 1 position back. And that means that the number 212 of Ricky Russell and the number 206 of Josh Toth battling out there just outside the top 5. And a little further down the trail, beautiful Florida landscapes and very tight wood sections as Ben Kelly and Jordan Ashburn stretching it out over Josep Garcia. Garcia appears to be somewhat by himself in that number 3 position, as Ben Kelly and Ashburn battle it out for the number 1 spot. Here comes your 4th place ride. Should be seeing the 114, and there is Josh Strang still back in that number 4 spot. And here comes the 5th place ride now, the 206 of Josh Toth, as he is laying chase to the 114 machine. So a few good battles starting to shape up out here. And there's the one up front a lot of folks are keeping an eye on. Can Jordan Ashburn keep Ben Kelly at bay? It's still early in the race to find this one out. Kelly, though, making his way through the pack after a mid-pack start, and slowly and methodically working his way into 2nd place position, and the pace has quickened up front, which has taken those riders out ahead of the rest of the field. As surprising as that may be to some, I think another surprising note might be that the visiting Italian rider of Josep Garcia in that number 3 position is battling for a top podium spot here after only 2 rounds of American GNCC racing. Still up front, Jordan Ashburn, Ben Kelly 1 and 2. As we said, the gap is widening, but not so much over Garcia now as Josep makes his way down. Now only about 10 seconds off the pace. He's got about that and a little more over the 4th and 5th place ride, and could be a lot more as we're starting to see that gap open up between 3rd and 4th place position. And here comes the battle for 4th place. Josh Strang trying to get around some lap traffic there. That's a red background, but that is a visiting rider. There is Josh Toth back in the number 5 spot. So the battle of the Joshes now on. And back up front, we check in with this heated battle between Ashburn and Ben Kelly. Ashburn really seems to be cutting some good lines out there today. Kelly doesn't seem to be too overly excited to try to make a pass, and Josep Garcia is not falling too far behind. That gap, though, closing back up between 3rd and 4th as the 114 of Josh Strang now closing up and making up some ground as he stretches it out over the 206 of Toth. And we've got a well of a battle going on early on. These top 5 riders swapping back and forth. And the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn could be looking for a heads-up win over round 1 winner and defending champion Ben Kelly. And that would be a feather in the cap, no doubt about that. Garcia still back in that number 3 spot. As we look a little further back to 4th place and see what that gap is starting to shape up like now, as the 114 now seeing some lap traffic. That could change the face of this race a little bit as we get a little deeper into some of the back markers of the race itself. We got a new 4th place ride. That's the 206 of Josh Toth. What happened to Josh Strang, as looks like still Jordan Ashburn out front on point with the number 1 of Ben Kelly in 2nd. Josep Garcia, one of the top world enduro riders, wanting to come over here and race a few rounds. I think he had planned to race 3, maybe 4 rounds. This is his 2nd of those, and man, they're really getting a good taste of what American racing is like. There is the 114 and the 206 back to nose to tail. So Josh Strang and Josh Toth swapping back and forth and still rolling through the battle in that 4th place position. So it's a good one, no doubt. And it's still a good one up front as Ben Kelly looked like he might be going for a little bit of a different line there, maybe trying to make the pass on Jordan Ashburn, and Josep Garcia not far off the pace of these riders right now. Here comes that heated battle for 4th, still the battle of the Joshes, Strang and Toth. I thought Toth had that one locked, stock, and barrel, but quickly things can change out here on the GNCC trail, especially with the lap traffic we were talking about. And here's that lap traffic that could have changed things up for Jordan Ashburn as he is now trying to play catch-up to the number 1 of Ben Kelly. And here comes Josep Garcia, who is closing in thanks to the lap traffic on the number 3 and possibly looking at a 2nd place position. Our new leader, the number 1 of Ben Kelly, out front, the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn, Magna 1 Motorsports ride, running in the number 2 spot. And here comes Josep Garcia on a mission of his own to prove to the world and himself that he can get it done on all stages, and looking like he's doing a pretty good job performing on this stage today, as Ben Kelly still out front after making that pass on the number 3 of Ashburn. Ashburn still in 2nd. Garcia, as we said, still in the number 3 spot. There's about the same distance, about 10 seconds between 1st and 2nd, 10 seconds between 2nd and 3rd. As looks like we got a new 4th place right there's the 206 once again. And what happened to the 114 of Josh Strang? He is in the pits. to the battle of the Joshes. May have just dropped another rider. We saw 3 of them going out in that first round. Unfortunately, Stu Baylor out. Unfortunately, we saw Johnny Gerard out, who's a championship contender in the XC2 250 Pro class. We saw Lane Michael out, the 523 from that XC1 Pro class, and left not a lot of key players on that front row. So new names rising to the top. Jordan Ashburn, though, established himself the last couple of seasons, and I'm surprised that number 3 isn't a little higher than that, at least a number 2, because he has ridden some great seasons and could be a championship contender this year, could be a contender for the number 2 plate as well. But Jordan Ashburn has had some solid years, but not been able to win a lot of races or any championships. Consistency has paid huge dividends for that rider, though, and this rider right here, another consistent rider on the world stage, and again here in GNCC in that solid number 3 ride. Well, no surprises that the international riders really like the GNCC, our American riders, as we see the number 3 of Ashburn going by, and Garcia has now closed up the gap on him, so battle for second could ensue very quickly, it looks like. This is going to be interesting, folks. As we'll look a little further down the trail, there's the number 1 of Ben Kelly. Let's see what's going on now back there for that battle for second. There's the number 3 of Ashburn. There is Garcia in his rearview mirror, but not as close as he was just a mile or so down the trail, so things are starting to widen up. Actually, that was a lapped rider that had got in between them. So you can see that is already starting to play a little bit of a factor in this race. It gives a little bit of breathing room there for Jordan Ashburn. But will that be the case the rest of the day? Because Ashburn is behind some lap traffic of his own. He's got to get around this, and he's got to try to keep that distance between himself now and Garcia. As we were saying about the international riders, the riders that go to the International 6-Day event, the ISDE, have been telling us that a lot of these riders keep saying that they want to come and contend the GNCCs. Well, here they are. Welcome to the entire world, to the GNCC Racing Nation. Right now, though, Ben Kelly, the New Englander, leads it. How's this one going to finish? Stick around to find out. GNCC continues after this. Coverage of the Grand National Cross Country Championship on MAV TV is brought to you in part by Specialized E-Turbo Bikes. It's you, only faster. And by RockyMountainATVMC.com. Get ready. Well, the heart of any nation lives in its youth, and it's no different in the GNCC Racing Nation either, as our friends from KTM and Stasic Stability Cycles teamed up once again here in the 2022 season for the Stasic Saturday Night Races here in GNCC. Riders from as young as 1 year old up to about 6 or 7 year old try their hand at racing on Saturday nights in a, well, fun for all event. No real scores kept here, but these kids race with all their heart. There's no doubt about it. A lot of young riders learning and honing their racing skills out here, and many of them only 2 years old. Can't even talk yet, but you know they're wanting to go racing, and that's all they want to do. And they are learning so much and having so much fun at the same time. GNCC, definitely a family sport. If it's something you're thinking about getting into, be sure to check out GNCCRacing.com and come find us at a racetrack near you. You will not be disappointed. Look at that. I'll say thanks to Griff Cotter. He is the man on the mic on Saturday nights for those little Pee-wee riders and those Stasic Stability riders, and they have a great time. And of course, Griff, a big part of the Racer TV projects as well. So we pick things back up here. Ben Kelly still out front of this one. Here in the sands of Florida, round number 2. And look at this. Things have tightened back up for the number 2 spot as Garcia is right back on the rear fender nearly of the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn, your second place ride. Definitely some unfamiliar territory for Jordan Ashburn as far as being pressured by Joseph Garcia. Not unfamiliar territory to be in the number 2 spot, but a whole new perspective of someone else trying to get around you. So that could be playing some big mind games with the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn. But as we look a little further down the trail, doesn't look like it's played too much, as he's already opened it back up a little more over the 264 of Joseph Garcia. So they're keep coming together, stretching back out. And lap traffic, I'm going to think, is probably a big factor in that one as we see Ben Kelly here in these closing moments of this race. It's hard to believe that this race is nearly over, and Ben Kelly has opened up a lead of nearly a minute over the rest of the field. And here comes the battle for the number 2 spot. Jordan Ashburn and Joseph Garcia. This one could go right down to the wire. Oh, Jordan Ashburn goes down. He goes out wide. Looked like he still had the line and that lead in the number 2 spot, but washes out that front end, goes down. Joseph Garcia goes to the number 2 spot, but the checkers go to Ben Kelly, and the win here, round number 2 for the number 1, his second of the 2022 season.
It was good. I tried to make a few passes in the first lap, but I wasn't aggressive enough. I was kind of just playing it cool because I know how gnarly this race is. And yeah, about the halfway point, I got in the lead, and it was nice. I had some clear track and just kept going, jumping the whoops, wheel tapping them, just trying to have fun and save energy as much as I could. And it worked out in the end. Luckily, had a lot of support out there, giving water, pouring water down our backs. Just all that makes a huge difference, so it was cool, and yeah, pumped to get another win.
Well, Ben Kelly's freshness at the end of this race is any indication he's going to be tough to beat again. But here's the big news. Joseph Garcia on the podium with a second-place position. What a stellar ride, his second outing only in GNCC. Let's check in with him.
I had so fun today. I had a good start. Then I want to be in front, you know. Then Ben passed me so strong. In the third lap, I hit my hand in one tree, and I hurt a little bit. So I suffered a lot in the race, but I'm really happy to come here to America GNCC, my first podium. So awesome.
Well, there it is. Joseph Garcia gets second place. Ashburn in third. Craig DeLong, Mike Witkowski round out fourth and fifth. That means Witkowski takes the win in the XC2250 Pro class. Bad news for Joseph Garcia, though. That hand he talked about will take him out of GNCC racing.
Man, what a day. I got a great start, got the whole shot, got out front, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And, you know, just kind of, I knew I wasn't, like Ben was all over me early on. I wasn't the fastest guy out there, but I just tried to ride the fast lines, and we pitted on different times. He got around me, and then he just steadily just pulled all day. And Joseph was just all over me all day. And, yeah, I just tried to ride mistake-free, and the last lap, I was just so pumped up and tired, and I fell over here, and that was it. Just about KO'd. So, man, it was a good day, though. I feel like we rode good. The bike was good, and, yeah, try to get ready for Georgia.
Well, the ride like that today, it's hard not to say welcome to championship contention, Jordan Ashburn, as we take a look back at the Specialized Race Recap, where Jordan Ashburn, finishing third on the day, grabbed the early lead in this one, and he had Steve Holcomb and Joseph Garcia not far behind him back there. As the race wore on, things got sorted out. Of course, many of the key players finally making their way to the front of the pack. Of course, Ben Kelly, about a 5th or 6th place position to start things off. Didn't really seem to have a sense of urgency early on, but as the race wore on, he was able to work his way through, get around the number 3 of Jordan Ashburn, where Ashburn found himself in a heated battle with Joseph Garcia. They went at it basically most of the race after the number 1 of Kelly made the pass. It wasn't until this final few turns where Joseph Garcia was putting the pressure on a very tired Jordan Ashburn. Ashburn goes down. Joseph gets the number 2 nod, and then Ashburn picks back up to finish up in the number 3 spot. But going 2 for 2 in the 22 season, the number 1 of Ben Kelly taking the win here in the sands of Florida. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here after round number 2. Be sure and check in with GNCCRacing.com to keep up with all things that are GNCC. I'm Rodney Tomlin. Have a great day, everybody.